Welcome to BWI Live. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. We've got a big week ahead of us. Bit of an interesting time for this particular show because it's a very important day. We're going to get to see Pat Kraft and Penn State practice today, but that's today, not right now. We haven't yet seen any of those things. So we've got a fun show, though. I think we got a good lineup of what we're going to talk about, and the band's all back together. So Nate Bauer, Sean Fitz, back on the BWI Live Tuesday edition. Nate, I have not seen you this week yet, despite bumping into you at Wegmans, which is Nate's most. There are two places in State College where Nate Bauer is the most famous. Anti-Fragile, by far, number one. Wegmans, by far, number two. So Nate, how are you doing today?
I mean, I don't know how to respond to that. It's great. I'm flattered.
Gassing you up to start the show.
My ego is going to be out of control for the rest of the day. Thank you very much, T. Frank. Fitz, if you have a problem with it, you can talk to T. Frank.
Well, that's what Fitz is here for. That's what he's here for. He's the balance between the two of us.
To deflate me.
Somebody's got to.
So just as a quick heads up here on the show, if you saw what Fitz and I talked about yesterday with Gay Jenkins committing to Penn State, yes, the video is choppy because, yes, I have Xfinity, and it's the worst having some issues today as well. So hopefully, Fitz, can you see and hear me fine today at least?
You're great. I think we just lost a sponsor, but you're great.
Xfinity's okay. Darn, because Xfinity was knocking our door down. Yeah.
I would take a discount as a swap. Like, I don't even need. They don't even give us cash. Like, just less money.
Here's what I would like. I would like my internet to work every day. You know, that's like fair. If they just, instead of being a sponsor of the show, just allow me to do my job because I work from home instead of having to play roulette every morning and find out, hey, no, actually, before the show, you're not going to have internet. We're going to make sure that you have 4 megabits. It'll technically work, but, here we are on the show today. So anyway, speaking of gassing up Nate, we have a fun show of maybe course correcting for the first month of the football season, because this is the time where everyone looks great. They're in the best shape of their life. We've got Camp Hype Check coming up on the show today, where we're going to discuss some storylines and say, hey, is this highlights on YouTube and on Twitter, or is there some real deal here? That's coming up later. And, of course, the BWI Mailbag. We haven't opened it up in a while, so we're going to open that up, get your questions, plus a detail of what's going on with training camp this week as we head into the first unofficial but official week of prep for Nevada. So, as we mentioned, this is the final week of camp. Our final view of training camp practice happens this afternoon. So, Fitz, what are you expecting from this particular week in terms of important storylines for Penn State fans to know? I'm thinking what you're going to be writing over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, maybe some of the things that we're going to learn that fans can go learn about later this week. Just kind of give everybody a heads up of what's on the horizon.
Yeah, I think that you're looking at Penn State coming off of, closing preseason camp. And preseason camp means a lot of things, but, it's not the entire time leading up to game 1 against Nevada. It's going to be the first couple of weeks when you are basically doing the Remember the Titans at the Gettysburg type things, when you are preparing your entire team for what comes next. And what comes next is going to be actual game prep, actual prep for the opponents that you're going to play. But right now you're looking at getting your best on your best, getting those younger guys to step into spots. And really what we found this year is you're looking at Penn State preparing for a season that goes well into January. And what I mean by that, and James Franklin has said it a few times, is they learned last year that it is an absolute grind. You're no longer finishing your season January 1st in a New Year's Bowl or whatever. You've got to prepare your team for 16, 17 games and make that work as well as it can. And what that means is you're taking guys, you're sitting them on the sideline a little bit more. You're being more careful with guys coming back from injury, guys like Anthony Donka, Lonzo Ford. You just got to manage those guys because management is going to be so important for this team over the next 5 months. So you're looking at sort of a different outlook at camp. Last year, we heard how physical it was, how much hitting that they did to get ready for the season. And of course, they opened the season at West Virginia. I mean, it's not really an elephant in the room, but everybody knows who Penn State opens with this year. You're looking at an extended sort of extended camp into September so that you can prepare for Oregon. And I know Penn State's got its 1-0 mantra, and they're going to trot that out there absolutely over the next couple of weeks. But at the same time, you're looking at a preseason. I hate saying that because it demeans the opponent, but you're looking at a preseason opportunity here. Now, you still got to take care of business. You still have to execute, which is the number one thing that they're looking to get to. But I think you see them fleshing it out a little bit more and trying to get the most out of what they've got right now, knowing that you can't peak on August 30th. You've got to peak in January. So I think that's what we see. We've seen a lot of the bumps and bruises. We've seen a lot of the light blue jerseys and things like that. We don't see them when they're there. They take them off and, have the little show, have those guys standing on the sidelines in regular jerseys. But you're looking at a situation where Penn State is I think smartly managing what they've got.
It almost sounds a little bit more with the OTAs, as James Franklin called it, with the off-season stuff they're able to do, working with the players and the length of the season. It's more, again, we keep saying this more and more, it's more of an NFL model. When you're playing that many games, you're not beating yourself up in camp to get ready for the first game of the season. You might be letting that ramp up, as Fitz said. Nate, it feels like it was just yesterday when we were out watching linebackers and tight ends hit each other in camp drills during media day, but here we are. This afternoon is the final open practice of training camp. Of course, we're going to get weekly access throughout the season, but it'll look and feel very different. So what are you expecting tonight? What are the things you're interested in learning tonight? And then I got a follow-up question for you later after that.
I don't expect to learn anything tonight with intention, right? Like Penn State doesn't want us to learn anything tonight. They want to have the last practice before they split into scout team and so there's a lot of writing on the wall that happens after tonight. So tonight they'll sit down and maybe it'll be over a couple of days, whatever. But conversations with kids, their families, and hey, like this is the trajectory that you are on for this football season. So that includes true freshmen who will, be yellows or reds, right? And the handful that will be greens out of the gate. But like, I don't expect James Franklin to say what those things are tonight. I would anticipate he will talk about ongoing position battles, right? We're watching safety for sure, opposite Zachy Wheatley. We are watching running back 3, which you asked about last week and gave us really the best answer of the entire press conference last week, which was, yeah, they're all out.
Right.
They're all out. We don't know.
We don't know yet because they've all been out, which is a bummer for them, right? I mean, given how much the investment they want to put into that particular position, to just not be able to find out is probably very frustrating.
Yeah, so that response was tinged with that. Certainly, receiver is just going to remain. It doesn't even matter. Like they can come out and say, yeah, these are the 3 starters, and they're going to be the best in the world, and nobody's going to believe it until they do it. So right. It's just a kind of a wait and see moment. But it does the way that they, and I talked about this last week, I think, but the way that they time this annually is to creates a gap in between when they deliver that news to those players. And so those players have a chance to digest it and, kind of come to grips with what their future is for this season versus the next time we talk to James Franklin, which will be Monday next week, which is game week, right? Like the actual rhythms of his weekly press conference being on Mondays at noon through the season.
This show brought to you by Sports Academy and Outdoors. Give me 1 second. There's things I have to do here. And, of course, I didn't have time to prep. There we go. Academy Sports and Outdoors carries all your gear needed from top brands at prices you'll love. And now shopping at the Academy is even more convenient than ever. They offer free assembly on in-store purchases of most bikes and grills, plus free and easy curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Want to save even more every day? Open and use an Academy Sports and Outdoors credit card. Get 5% off future purchases when you're approved. Save time and money at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Another place that we like to have fun is at Anti-Fragile Brewing Company in downtown State College. Fitz, I need to ask you about Anti-Fragile. It's been too long since I've heard you talking about it. So tell me about our favorite beer joint in State College.
I can't wait to get back. I have not been there for a long time, and I haven't been in town most of the last couple of months, but I'm looking forward to getting back as soon as this evening, actually. So Nate, if you're on the clock, let me know. No, Anti-Fragile Brewing, downtown State College, Calder Way. If you're listening to the show, you know it by now. We are all over this one because it is a spot that we hung out before they were a sponsor. It's a spot that we will continue to hang out with them as a sponsor, and we want to keep them as long as possible as a sponsor. So I think we're just going to keep showing up. Best beer in State College, great cheesesteaks, kombucha, mixed drinks, great atmosphere, great people. We love their support, not just because of their product, but because of the way that they've treated us as customers and as, I guess, advertisees. I don't know if that's a word, but great spot in State College. If you're coming in for a game, which is just a couple of weeks away, great spot on a Friday afternoon to pop in. You will run into people that you will talk Penn State football with. You will run into bartenders who really have appreciated the Blue White Illustrated influence on their business. So definitely check it out. It is a great spot to hop by on a Friday afternoon or before a game on Saturday. Grab a breakfast, John, a cheesesteak with bacon and eggs on it. You can't beat that. So definitely we appreciate their support. We appreciate everything that they do. And we hope to, continue to pop up there as, as patrons, really. Like that. It's one thing as an advertiser, but as a patron, hey, we love going there as much as they love having us.
Nate has paid their entire advertising budget so far, I think, in the month of August, from what he's telling me.
Yeah, I'm out of control. But yeah, back to, in fact, Cowboy manning the cheesesteak shop there it was a look of delight and a little disgust, right? Like Saturday afternoon, back to back. Nate, what are we? You gonna go see your kids? Are you gonna go do something productive?
Ways. Yeah.
Nah.
Oh, yeah.
He is doing something incredibly productive for us here on the show.
So hurtful. All right, go ahead.
Last thing, and Nate, I want to know, I think this is a great time to also throw this in as part of our, hey, let's stop and talk about what you can get from BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Are we going to have, maybe for people that want to know, inquiring minds later this week, are we going to have some of that information, some of that too deep before it might be somewhere else? Like, is there some sort of reporting that might happen later on this week? And if it is, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, join for just $1. We'll be getting into our regular season mode. We're going to get all this information. Penn State does not publish it. I'm peer pressuring these guys into talking about something that I don't know if they're going to be ready for or not. But what I'm trying to say here is each week, we put out our own depth chart. Penn State doesn't put out a depth chart. We do. And it's not just guessing. So $1 for a week for the try us out, then a full year of access at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. So we're going to be getting into that mode, that rhythm, starting next week against Nevada. But Nate, just give me a casual promotion then of what's coming up later this week from you.
Yeah, all the stuff. I mean, buzz. Right. I don't know that we've used the buzz word this preseason, but I think, I don't think we've.
I think I borrowed it from you. I borrowed it a couple times.
That's copyrighted, pal. Absolutely not.
All right, sue me. I'll see you in court.
I've got something coming up on a position battle that I didn't think was going to be a position battle, but it's turned into a position battle. I'm quite intrigued by this one, actually. But you've got that. You've got the depth chart stuff. And I'm very curious to see, and we've talked about this when talking about Ethan Grunkmeyer and Jackson Smolik for the QB2 position, like how many answers we've got at the end of August. Like, and does it matter? Like you've got the 3-game bubble there where you're going to see a lot of guys play. And again, I don't mean to demean. Yeah, I hated that I said that. That's not my thing. But you've got an opportunity to get those guys meaningful game reps against guys that are Division I athletes. Like there's something to be said for, the guys on the FIU roster, the guys in the Nevada roster, Villanova roster, some good players there. You can find pros at that level. And they're not going to be running your playbook. Like they're going to be doing different stuff, trying to confuse you. And when we see teams like that come in, they're going to try and stunt. They're going to try and, do things that make up for the physical gap and the talent gap. And Penn State should win those in a runaway, but at the same time, it's different than inter squad scrimmage. Like it's you hit someone else, and that matters. So these guys are going to have the opportunity. I know guys are asking about RB3 in the chat. Guys are asking about QB2 and things like that. But I think what we've seen, and going back to my last fleshing it out point about camp, is that camp is just part of it now. Like last year, Sanders Sahadak won the kicking job in camp, and then he had to go to West Virginia and kick at West Virginia. Now you've got guys that are leading coming out of camp. And does that matter as much as winning a job in camp? So I'm fascinated to see how this pulls out. And you've got an opportunity for starting spots, not as many starting spots, which is a really good thing when you're talking about college football, but also those depth positions that will mean so much in October, November. Guys will eventually emerge and play more snaps than we project them to play in August.
So we've got a question here in the chat. This one from Frack the Hunter. He wants to know, are we doing a pregame show this year? Yes, we are going to be live outside the Bryce Jordan Center, same time, 3 hours before kickoff. We're doing that in conjunction with Seven Mountains Media once again. So if you want to join us 3 hours before, so about 12:30, we'll be kicking off the show for Nevada coming up next week. And then whatever the time is, you come check us out 3 hours before kickoff. We'll have a 90-minute show previewing the game. The announcement here, Landon has moved on to a new show, so it'll be me and producer Kyle are going to be doing the show. So wishing him the best. I'm excited to see what he's able to do this new opportunity. And don't worry, we're still going to be collaborating. In fact, I'm going to be doing a show with him live downtown stage on Thursday at 30. So if you want to come say hi then, you don't even have to wait until the tailgate show. We'll be at the student bookstore if you want to come check it. So say hi to BWI as well. Throwing this one up here. Let's see, Eric. We'll do a quick mailbag question now, and then, of course, BWI Mailbag coming up at the end of the show. Eric Eisler says, Moko rising. Somebody's going to have to explain that to me long before Kim Harvey and Kamaju become starters. Is that Fitz? Is that a Montgomery County or something? Is that an area code sort of shout out there from Eric?
Yeah. Eric is famously proud of Montgomery County down in Maryland, and of course, Quince Orchard had eventually produced Xavier Gilliam, of course, Jalen Harvey, Kemaju is from down there as well. So they got athletes down there. Like they've got guys that have been really, really good college players and eventually pros as well. So I mean, it's one of those things when you're looking at 2026, these guys are more prominent, a little bit more than they are now, but they're going to play a role certainly. Gilliam, defensive tackle number 3, he's going to play a lot. Harvey, defensive end number 3, he's going to play a lot. Both of those guys redshirt freshmen. We talk about what Penn State has to establish in the defensive line, and it's this kind of depth, these kind of guys that can play at a high level right away, because it's earlier in their typical clock than they would have to be called upon, but they're going to have to be, because you've got Denai Dennis Sutton and Zariah Fisher as veterans ahead of those guys, or ahead of Harvey at defensive end. But then you look and it's all freshmen, whether it's redshirt, whether it's sophomore. I know Mason Robinson's a redshirt sophomore, but whether it's redshirt, whether it's true, there's a lot of talent there, but that talent needs to be refined and needs to be sharp. And Jalen Harvey, I have him as defensive end number 3 right now. So it's kind of those two starters, and then Jalen Harvey, and then there's a mishmash of a freshman in there with Chaz Coleman, with Yvonne Kamaju. Those guys are, I think, pretty special, and we're going to see it, but there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be grinding that happens to sharpen those edges. So I'm excited about that group. You're going to see a lot more of the redshirt freshmen, the freshmen, than you probably typically would, but eventually by 2026, 2027, that's going to reemerge as a strong point. Not that it's not a strong point now with those guys starting, but it's going to reemerge as a strong point with all that talent. Not all of them are going to hit. Some of them will hit very well, I feel.
This is a good transition, and we're going to do things a little bit out of order because I do want to get to this. You guys wrote some really good stuff over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. We're calling this What They're Saying, Nate and Fitz. Fitz, you were writing about under-the-radar players on offense and defense that you think are going to have a role this year after what we've seen of camp and what you've gathered so far. Were those 3 guys on that list for defense, or were those guys on that list for defense? And then just through whatever you want to reveal your articles over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, who maybe some of the other guys are that you think are going to be under-radar factors this year.
Yeah, I think those guys they make an argument for it. They were not actually on that list because, I mean, here's the way. When you follow this thing all year round like we do, you kind of get used to some of the guys that aren't starting, that are, maybe feel that they're on a platform that's like that. So you look at Gilliam, like you know the expectations for Gilliam, so much so that you probably take him. I don't want to say you, but we probably take him for granted as a guy that's going to produce, even though he's just a redshirt freshman. But he's been on the radar so long, where you've got Zane and you have incredibly high expectations for Zane Durant. You've got Alonzo Ford, who's coming back, and you expect him to help out the guys around him. And then you've got Gilliam, and then you have questions. So I've got Owen Wafel on the list. Like that is a guy that maybe pushes, and
that's
you've got
that.
Well, I mean, you look at what's there, and you're going to need a fourth defensive tackle. And is that Ty Blanding? Is it Owen Wafel? Is it one of the other guys, Liam Andrews, or something like that? You don't really know yet, and that's something that you can work out in September. That's something that you can really try to make it work. And you just keep hearing good things about a guy like Wafel because he can be so solid. You don't need your fourth defensive tackle to do what Zane Durant is being asked to do. You need a guy that's going to come in there, eat up snaps, eat up blockers, and be solid. And from everything that we hear about Wafel, a lot of that stuff is on record, by the way. A lot of things that we hear about Wafel on record is like, yeah, he's just going to solid his way into a playing role. Yeah. He's a redshirt freshman too. So I'm very intrigued by a guy like him. At defensive end, you got Coleman, who's kind of the buzz of camp so far. So you've got guys like that are working their way into it. And last year you had situations where we thought that Nolan Rucci was probably going to be a backup, rotational guy. And then all of a sudden Anthony Donka gets hurt, and January you're leaning on Nolan Rucci. So these are the type of things that I say when you're saying about building up to January. And I know everyone has the 2-game season on their mind right now with Oregon and Ohio State, but this thing is such a grind that, Penn State has found themselves in situations like Minnesota last year, like, opportunities that could have gotten away from them, if you will, USC last year. So you're going to have multiple guys step up. And I think that the depth of this roster really lends itself to something like that happening over the next 5 months.
Nate, you got a good recap of some of the buzz that happened this past weekend. We know from social media highlights, Penn State was at Beaver Stadium. They had, a scrimmage under the lights Sunday. And part of our Friday chat by the way, sponsored by KMA Insurance, shout out to them. You had some good recap of intel. So what are the highlights of what you learned, and where can people go more to find out more of that?
Yeah. What were the well, I know what the lowlights were, and that's what's going to make everybody clutch their pearls. Yeah.
Please save that, because we got Camp Hype Check coming up in a second.
Okay. All right. I'll hold off on that. Yeah, no, I think that there are some situations that are starting to clarify themselves, right? And part of it is not even camp buzz or practice, eyes on practice. It's Jim Knowles saying they feel really good about 3 linebackers. Behind that, I think there are some questions, guys that maybe need to solidify themselves a little bit better. Look, it's a couple of things. One, that was important for a somewhat hype checking update over the weekend is it was like oppressively hot this past weekend. And also I think everyone, again, this is just me kind of reading tea leaves, I think everybody's tired of camp. Like, everybody's over it. They're just, it's okay. That's enough.
You've hit each other enough. You've gotten to the point where everyone's tired of doing position drills. They want somebody else. They want things to actually progress. Everyone gets to that point in camp.
Yeah. So and look, this has been a 9-month run up to getting back to where they were at the end of last season, right? And so there's a long way to go between the start of this season and the end of this season. But in terms of the work that they've put in, or that they feel they've put in from, really January 10th or 11th until now, is okay. That's enough. They're ready. They're ready to hit somebody else and actually start compiling actual wins, right? They talk about these daily wins, and yes, you have that for individual development, and yes, for the units within the team. All of those things are important to put your best foot forward when the games do come, and it counts. But now, like, oh, yep, it's on the table. They're on the doorstep and they're ready for it.
So that's interesting, Fitz. There's that on one hand of tired of hitting each other, want to go hit somebody else, want to be done with camp. And then there is, I think where Nate started was 3 linebackers, the depth, maybe not sure about that yet. What's the tension there between we want to be as ready as possible and have everyone up to speed, and we need to actually get this boat in the water? So like from like a coaching perspective, how do you not that you're a coach, but how do you view kind of that tension between those two realities?
Yeah, I think you're looking at the end of camp, and this is probably a general college football thing, as like they wanted to wear them down as much as possible over the weekend. Like I think there's something to that. It's like, hey, here's the end of camp. You got to power through. It's the fourth quarter mentality, right? Like you get to the end of camp, and then you have to finish it off. And that's something that they could carry over from the last game that they played, obviously. So you've got an opportunity to sort of set the tone with that and then take a break. I mean, we saw them throwing James Franklin in the pool and everything like that. Like, that's great. It's wonderful. But it's metaphorically, kind of the same thing. You need a dip in the pool after a long day of work or whatever. You've got an opportunity to do that. So I think that is one thing that I think we've seen over the last couple of days. And Nate mentioned some lowlights from practice. I think these guys were tired. And I don't think that's a shot at the strength and conditioning staff or anything like that. I think it's just a reality of the situation is they wanted to grind these guys down, and now you've got an opportunity to build them back up in a couple of weeks. So I think some of the lowlights that you've seen, fatigue would play into that. You've got different sort of levels of bumps and bruises, and that would play into that as well. So I think that's what I took away from this weekend is it was a hard weekend for those guys, and good. That's what they're here for.
Stress test. Okay, so let's get into I'm kind of excited about this one. This is what we do. We spend all off season reporting what we know and going to camp, and I'll take this one squarely on my shoulders of like getting way too excited about what you see in 20 minutes of individual position drills, gleaning information. I want to discredit that, but then of course understanding there's a broader context. So where does that all fit into the reality of the situation? Let's get into our camp hype check. So let's start with our favorite position, Nate. Here's our first hype check. The Penn State transfer receivers and the receivers as a whole are better than last year's group.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's not hype. That's not, you're saying that is a real thing.
Yep, it is.
Okay.
It is on the whole. Okay, so a couple of things, and I think it's worth fleshing out.
You think?
Yeah, I know. Surprise, surprise. Just stop the timer in 15 minutes, okay? Just like cut me off in 15 minutes.
I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. I'll be back.
So here's what I'd like to say. When Drew Aller and James Franklin and Hagens, when all of these guys talk about how much the newcomers to the program, Pena, Hudson, and Ross, how much they love football. And give me a split screen here, T. Frank, because I want to see Fitz's face when I say this. Yeah, how much they love football. Are they just talking about how much those guys love football?
No.
Nope, they're not. They're saying something about the guys that aren't in the program now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We subtweeted.
And a little subtweet. And so I think what you have is there's like different levels to this. One, and again, I'm going to ask for a little call and response here, but does anybody talk about these receivers? And this is the bad news. Does anybody talk about these receivers the way that they talk about Darius Dixon or Chaz Coleman or Nick Singleton or Drew Aller or Zane Durant? Do they talk about them with the same verbiage?
I will say
the answer is no.
No, I'm going to say yes in comparison.
I was waiting for
asked.
amen.
Well, this is what T. Frank's asking in the original question. Compare it to last year. Julian was a great leader who was hoping to lead the room to be a leader and lead. Like that's right. There was no mention of football skills. Hudson's been a little different. Pena's been a little bit different. They've been a little bit different. So if you're looking for micro aggressions here, like I think that you're seeing that. Like you're seeing some of that. And Drew has been kind of effusive of how he does things. Like I think it's been I get what you're saying, and I agree with that, because when you're talking about the character, when you're talking about the leadership, when you're talking about everything that's not on the football field, yeah, I think you can make that leap. But I think there's been some more of that. And I'll be honest with you, and some of you might know, some of you might not know, I haven't been in town all summer. Like this is my first practice tonight, so I haven't been there. I haven't been to the Franklin things. I haven't talked to the assistant coaches or anything like that on the record, and didn't go to media day. So like I'm a bit out of that bubble, and so I haven't heard everything. But I've heard more about these guys being contributors on the football field than we heard last year about Julian.
The word is productivity. Okay. They will catch the football. They will get opportunities. Yes. And all of those things are important for the offense to expand its breadth, right? To have the opportunities to have the success that they want to have, which is what showed up last season when they couldn't run the football, right? If opponents could lock down Tyler Warren, and few of them did, but occasionally teams were able to take him out of, and when I say teams, I'm talking about Ohio State, right? Like all this is about Ohio State. If teams can limit your tight end and they can limit the running game, what happened to the passing game in that Ohio State game? It wasn't great. Right. And so as long as there is competency there at receiver, and those guys are complemented by some of the younger guys who maybe are a little more adept, a little more forward in terms of their ability to make those game-breaking plays. I think that's a recipe that Penn State believes can work and is undeniable progress on last season. I just think it's about having a context of what everyone is saying. And I don't think, because like again, and it just sounds like I'm being mean. I'm not. Liam Clifford's going to play a ton of football this season. Well, and there's a reason.
Here's the other thing there is you're talking about gauging hype, right? Mentioning someone's name once and telling you otherwise that they're going to be a start. They're two different things. Like Liam Clifford has become a trigger for so many people. Just cannot handle.
He's the new Tyler Elsdon. He has received from him the crown of whipping boy for Penn State.
Yeah, but he's going to be on the football field. He's not going to be a primary target. I don't think so. But you've got an opportunity for him to make plays in other ways. Like you're not throwing the ball to three receivers every play, right? Like that is you need a guy out there to block. You need all that stuff, and he's going to provide that, and that's why he's where he's at. Like there's such a gulf between where the coaching staff views him and where the fan base views him. But he's going to be on the field because the one that makes those decisions is the one that feels better about him than the fan base, obviously. So, yeah. But you're looking at gauging this hype, and I hate the word hype because it's like once you mention a guy that's hyping him up, you're looking at what this group can provide as a whole, and I think it's more than last year. So like they're not there yet. We're a seeing is believing type show, right? This is not us telling you that they're going to be all Big Ten guys. And you got three guys that were very productive at their previous spot that they're going to have to figure out what is production here. What is production at Penn State? Trevor Pena is not going to catch 84 balls, I don't think. It'd be interesting to see how that would go out. But you are taking away Tyler Warren's targets, taking away his catches, distributing it to these three who came in as 1-year rentals essentially, and you've got other receivers, you've got tight ends, Khalil Dinkins and Luke Reynolds, and Andrew Rapperley is going to play as well. And then Nate, we're going to go back to this. Nick Singleton caught 41 passes last year. He's going to have his numbers. Katron Allen is going to have his numbers. So it's going to be spread out, and you're not going to see the same level of production from a stat line perspective Mitchell Tinsley caught 100 and some balls at Middle Tennessee State, caught 53 at Penn State. You're going to see a drop off in numbers. Does that necessarily mean the production for the entire offense is dropping off? That is the question that I have.
Right.
When you take Warren out of the situation.
Yeah, you've got to make sure you still have, if the floor is higher, you still need to make sure you have something that allows you to create those explosive plays. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the BWI mailbag. So let's do a subsection of this. Let's not move from the receivers because nobody wants to move from the receivers. Camp hype check for Kobe Howard. What do we think here? Is the hype fits real for Kobe Howard? Freshman phenom, you just mentioned, distributing all of those targets and all being in quotes because there's not as many as you might think given this is a run-first team. Are there enough targets for Kobe Howard to have a breakout freshman season?
Breakout is in the eye of the beholder here. And with the NCAA video game coming back, people are moving back in this direction where you can bring in a true freshman. You can have him catch 50 balls and be an impact guy. He's not Jeremiah Smith. He's not Ryan Williams. You don't need him to be. You would want him to be, obviously, but you don't need to make your expectations in that level. But I think he's a really good football player, and he brings something different to the Penn State receiver room. What Penn State has missed in the last couple of years is, can you take a guy close to the line of scrimmage, break some tackles, and make some things happen? I mean, you remember Parker Washington against Ohio State in his final season, making that play. That is what they've missed, and that's what they went out and got Kobe Howard for. That's what Matthew Otten does really well. That's what Davion Brown does pretty well. So you've got these guys that are of a different body type and of a different style, and yes, they can make that happen. Now, what I'm fascinated by here is that 3-game window at the start of the season. Kobe Howard could play a lot of football, and then what happens? You tighten up because Oregon's coming to town, which is natural. Any school in the country, any program in the country would do that. And where is the expectation level on September 20th versus where it's going to be in October 20th? Like that is the question that I have. And that's the question I have for a lot of guys. It's like James Franklin's going to talk green lights and all that kind of stuff in the next couple of weeks. But those are probably a little cloudier than we've grown accustomed to just because of what is on the front quarter of the schedule. Sorry, I'm not a math guy.
I'm not either. It was brave of you to do that here live on air. Nate, now we'll move off of receivers. I'll throw this back to you.
Okay.
The Penn State linebackers are deeper than we thought at the beginning of the year. This is one that I think is interesting in terms of what we've seen versus what we don't see at camp. Some of the comments Jim Knowles made last week, and then directly, I don't want to say contradicting, but a little bit of conflict there between what he and what Dan Connor had to say about the group of players he feels comfortable having on the field. So let's do a hype check here.
Yep.
What lane are you in when it comes to the Penn State linebacker depth in totality?
I mean, this is mean, but yes, deeper than they thought because Amari Campbell can play. So instead of 2, it's 3.
Whew. All right.
Which is not. Look, there's just. This is just me. This is just my sense of things. If I had to read between the lines of what Penn State's coaches say in all of these availabilities, right? What the one thing that comes up more than anything else is consistency. And if you don't have it, if you don't bring it day after day, and part of consistency is availability, just being on the field, getting to practice and getting through a full practice. If they have doubts as to what that availability is, what that consistency is, that's what creates the nervous tension, I would say, for some of these position groups. And so, yeah, Keon Wiley, it does have good expectations. There are pieces there. There are guys who are going to play. Certainly, Keon's going to play. It's just a matter of how much and in what positions, right? Like in what spots in games can he be relied upon? I think that they hope so, right? Like you hope that Anthony Specca is better this year than he was last year. You hope that you have some of those options. But again, these were public comments from Jim Knowles last week. Like, it doesn't sound like they're there yet. And, it's a little bit of a wait and see as to whether or not they'll get there, right? In this immediate span of time.
A couple of things in retort to that. Number one, starting your diatribe there with, if I have to translate what the coaches are saying as if that's not your primary function, is really funny. Number two, the linebackers, they were shocked to lose Tamir Robinson in the spring. He was going to play a role this year. Like they did not expect him to portal. Like a lot of those guys, you could see that coming. Tamir Robinson was not one of them. So they were surprised by that. Now, they went out and got Amari Campbell, which for 2025 makes them better than they would have been, with Tamir Robinson in that role. Like, I think that they are confident about that. So the front half, they feel good about. The back half, it is, it's going to be a long, I don't want to say it's going to be a long season, but like you need 5 guys to be there because guys will get hurt. Shoulders go as linebackers. Like that's what they do. So you need Wiley, you need Specca to be there. And it's going to be a transition because it is a tough defense to pick up, especially for young players that haven't done it before. So I think that's what we're seeing at linebacker. That's what we're seeing at safety is you're seeing some of these growing pains with the new defense, especially, you look, some of those guys weren't in the lineup in the spring. You're going to see some of these growing pains. You're going to see some of that stuff that comes in. I don't buy it takes 3 years for him to put in a defense thing. I think that's bull. I think that's really a way to make yourself feel better about it. But I think that it will take some time. So there's a median in there where you try and figure out between the defense that was in, the defense that's going in, and where they can get as a defense. And I think that matters. So I think with Campbell coming in, you take a step up from Robinson. Robinson's long-term potential was always something that they looked at as being a potential, not game wrecker, but a guy that can be really good at a special kind of size at that position, because Tamir is a very big guy that can move pretty well. But in 2025, I think we're going to see him take a step forward from where he was at in 2024. But is it where Amari Campbell is going to be coming in? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a great way to phrase that. A guy who had length, good coverage ability, is a guy who played safety in high school, and immense size. But Amari Campbell couldn't be more different. Maybe 6 feet, stocky, plays football pretty well right now, and it was thrown into the fire early in his career, as opposed to Tamir Robinson, who started with an injury, and James Franklin talked about that this offseason, where he even Franklin talked about how he underestimated how starting with an injury makes guys feel like they're behind, and then makes them, panic might be the right word, or push harder and then not feel like they're where they should be because of that kind of, everyone else, it feels like everybody else got a head start on them. So linebacker,
you're also coming from a near championship level defense to, you want to be a championship level defense. And that's a big gap to go from. But at the same time, it's not like you're taking a defense that was garbage and trying to make it into a serviceable or championship level defense. So I think that base that he has to work with is going to really help everyone, just kind of get where they need to get. So I think that needs to be said. And on Campbell's part, what did we say when we watched him at North Carolina? Like, what is this guy? Because North Carolina's defense was one of those really, really bad defenses schematically. Performance-wise, gave up 53 to James Madison and a half or something like that. So when Amari Campbell got to Penn State, he had very good stats and everything like that. But Penn State was kind of apprehensive about what kind of player he could be, because you look at that defense and you're like, he does some really great things, but in the structure of our defense, how is he going to play? It's like,
is he going to be able to stay on task? Is he going to actually be able to focus on what he's supposed to do and not fly off 10 yards in the wrong direction because he is looking at the wrong thing? And those are all the things that I think when you talk about surprise players, there's been a lot of that positivity when it comes to positive projection. James, and where we started with the receivers, James Franklin and Cheklovsky both talked about how the transfer receivers, especially Kyron Hudson and Trevor Pena specifically, have gotten faster and more explosive. So more than what they were expecting from what they were at their previous places. And that's really where all of this, to me, this hype check of how much of this is we're positive about these guys, and how much of this is that going to actually translate onto the field for Penn State? And where I want to close up here, I apologize, because we do have to get to the mailbag. Let's go with, and I'm trying to pick between two, and I'm trying not to be the worst here, but Better Angels, Nate. Should I appeal to my Better Angels? Yes. Okay.
I'm here for the mess, so let's do it. Whatever the worst thing is.
Gonna go to you. Penn State's cornerbacks are elite.
Yeah.
Which is something we've said here on this show cornerbacks,
Yep.
multiple of them, are elite.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what you've been told, right?
Yep.
We've mentioned that here on the show in the last 6 weeks.
Many times, over and over and over again. Particularly the top of the depth chart. Jim Knowles said it. He said they're national championship caliber. Terry Smith has said it. I've said that they're the foundation of the defense. They literally, like, they're the pun not intended, the corners. I just feel dirty. No, but look, they're super good. And I do think you're going to see a lot of, Zion Tracy at nickel for sure. AJ Harris and the not hype, but like the expectations that they have for him. I actually kind of think we're not talking about him enough. I don't know that there's been enough conversation specifically about AJ Harris. It's really funny. And this is this entire conversation. I don't feel like this offseason, like, there have been just so many pieces that are expected to be really good that I'm not sure can be talked about enough. Zane Durant is one who in his career, I don't think has ever been talked about enough, even though I literally wrote a story about him yesterday with people who were talking about him. So perception versus reality. But yes, the cornerbacks, Elliot Washington, Davian Collins. Yes. Like, across the board, those guys. And obviously now Darius Dixon as being that dark horse who has been so impressive and acquitted himself so nicely. Apparently I hear he's a little in your face.
Chippy.
He's a chippy guy.
It's a chippy room.
Yeah. I think
that's the position.
Yeah. They have earned every piece of the confidence that they have in that room. And I think they will put it very much on display this season. It will be super interesting to me to see how teams decide, and when I say teams, I'm talking about the good ones, the good offenses that Penn State's going to play this season. Like, what is your poison? Like, what are you choosing to, how are you going to attack this defense? Because I'm not sure where you're going to throw the ball against these guys with any type of consistency and without getting picked off, honestly.
Let's get into our.
Oh, sorry, Frank.
Go for it. Finish.
I'm rusty, man. I'm sorry. I told you that yesterday. Sort of the best compliment you could have going into the season, and I look at the corners in this way, is if you're not talking about them because you expect the expectations are as such. Last year, there was high expectations for Tyler Warren, but if you look in the preseason about the supposed hype, the headlines and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't really there, just because you're expecting Penn State tight ends to be a top producing group in the country, like every year. That's where they're at. I think corners are up there. I know you always talk about Penn State as linebacker you, but now you're expecting more at defensive end. You're expecting more at corner. You're expecting more kind of all over the place because of the standard that's there. And there was a group, and I'm not going to scroll up to find it, or there was a question in the chat about, are these position groups championship level or whatever? But the expectation has been over the last couple of years that these guys are going to be championship level groups. And that's such a high bar that you kind of get lost in the shuffle, for lack of a better word, take for granted some of these positions because they have been so good. And just because the expectations come with them. I mean, last year, Tyler Warren stuff wasn't getting read because people thought they knew what it was going to be. And he blew that out of the water. Let's be honest here. Like, he was, he was hyped up in the preseason, if you will, but in the end, he was far better than that. That was awesome on his part. And I think you're going to see that with some of these guys, especially in the corner room, which is a really hard position to do that at, because you have those plays that stick in your mind, right? You have getting beat stuck in your mind, and you have, not knocking, or you have knocking a ball down versus not getting a pick. Those are the things that stand out to in people's minds. I mean, they're having an argument in the chat here about Kobe King saying he wasn't good in coverage. Well, no, he was not good in coverage when he got split out against Notre Dame. That's the play that you remember. Like that is very different than his resume as a whole. So the things that stick in your mind make corner being it's probably the most difficult position to play on the field, because the guys that you're going up against are freakazoids that know what they're doing, and you have an idea of what you think they're going to do, but you don't know what they're going to do. So guys like AJ Harris, guys like Elliott Washington, Davian Collins, and they're going to play a lot of corners because they have a lot of corners. Zion Tracy's going to play nickel. Kenny Wosley's going to play. Darius Dixon's going to come out. You've got a lot of guys that can play that position, which is incomprehensible to tell a Penn State fan in 2010 or 2013 or that year that they took. You know what? I'm not even going to get into that. But like the position has come so far that we've taken it for granted that we have conditioned ourselves to have these high expectations, which is what you want. But at the same time,
Penn
we don't
State's
print as much ink on it. Yeah.
Penn State's never had a DB drafted in the first round. That is a sign of a level of respect by the NFL and a level of talent and a level of difference making. I know that fans don't necessarily care about if a guy goes to the NFL or not, but it is indicative of how good that player was in college. You're not having a first-round draft pick that was absolutely terrible. I don't know. Maybe some teams are dumb, and you'll have your Trayvon Walkers out there who was good, but maybe not first-round, fourth overall pick. Usually guys are standout college players, one of the best of their position if they go in the first round. Joey Porter Jr. started what should have been a run of guys going in the first round, if not for injuries and COVID and a bunch of other things, where there is talent at that position now, and I think that's a difference-making thing for Penn State to kind of put a button on Fitz's point there for this particular room.
Hey,
now,
he was the number 32 pick. That's what do we do? 32 5-stars. So yeah, it was.
It was technically a first round draft pick in a year where
top
they were
32
round,
choice.
31.
That's going to be on a graphic at some point.
Can I ask a question? Is Cam Miller going to be good this year?
Yes, I think so. I don't know that he's going to be amazing, but I think he fits that system as an off-zone corner, a guy who can play cover 3 well. I don't know that as good of an athlete as he was, he didn't seem to thrive in man coverage, which is what they played last year. Interestingly, I think he would have been good in this defense as well, just stylistically different. And the position he was put in last year, I think what Rutgers does schematically fits him better.
My question:
all Big Ten honorable mention at some point. I think he's going to be there.
Where would he fit in this cornerback's room?
5th, 6th,
and that's my point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
rest my case.
Slot corner 2. Okay, let's get to the mail. It's been a while since we opened the mailbag. We got a ton of questions, and of course, we've had such a stimulating conversation so far. We're not going to be able to get to all of them. Greg and I will talk about them, the rest of them tomorrow on the Tomorrow Show as we recap what we see at practice and, of course, all the things that happened today. But let's get to some of these. I think this is a pretty easy one to talk about. Fitz, I think you brought up red light, green light, yellow lights earlier in the show. Will Gamble wants to know, given the hype for Chaz Coleman coming out of camp, do you guys think he burns his red shirt this year?
Will Gamble, you should bet on it. Yes, I think he does. Yeah, I think you look at what. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the shtick there. Yeah, I think he will. You look at what he's done so far, and I'll be honest with you. And I wrote about this yesterday. It's like looking back at the summer, I was talking to some of his coaches, and they didn't think he was ready, but just everything that we've heard so far, and you combine that with that's a position that has a lot of unknowns. We kind of talked about that at the start of the show. But yeah, I think he will be able to burn his red shirt this year, and it's a long season. And guys, Zariah, his health history is what it is. Like you can't get around that. And how do you take care of him and keep him fresh at the same time? You do that by playing a lot of guys. And without Max Granville, that really changes the math for a lot of those young guys at defensive end.
I'm going to come back to you for this one, Fitz, as our resident special teams expert and Fanny Pack Hero, new member at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Sign up right now for the season. Great time to get in. You can get in on the mailbag, which is where these questions are coming from. The mailbag thread over on the message board. You can be a part of our premium content. All the stuff we get you over there. Fanny Pack Hero wants to know, how are we looking on special teams? Seems like there's been very little discussion of it. Fitz hasn't been around. I don't do special teams. So Fitz, I know you've been out and, understandably, but How, to your sense, is Penn State looking on special teams from what you've gathered so far?
Yeah, but I would say about the same. Like you're looking at situations where you've got some unfinished business here in camp, and that's figuring out a lot in the return game. Of course, Zion Tracy is a guy that finished last season as the punt returner. Caden Saunders is out for the long term, so you got Zion Tracy in there. You would have loved to seen Devontae Ross in there, but I think with this situation in camp, you're kind of limiting him on taking hits or putting him in a position to take hits. So you've got questions to be answered there at kick return. And it's an interesting sort of look at this, right? What does Penn State want to do? What has they traditionally done at kick return? Is either put their studs out there, running back. Nick Singleton is a guy that can be in the mix to return kicks, but they would love to have RB3 out there, and that's been a consistent conversation throughout the last couple of weeks. Is RB3s, are they going to be healthy enough to be out there? So Quentin Martin's a guy that I looked at as a potential favorite for kick return. Cam Wallace, he continues to round into form there. But I think that they would prefer an offensive guy back there. We've talked about King Mack as a potential returner as well. So you've got still plenty of questions that are out there. And I think I hate to say there's plenty of time to work that one out. So what happens with those guys? Can Corey Smith return kicks? Can those guys carve out a role into what they could do? Because nobody's taking Nick and Katron off the field in crunch time. Like that's what I'm looking at. How do you keep all those guys engaged?
Nate, anything you want to add in there? Oh, sorry, I was looking for this, and I wanted to throw this one to you. So forget what I just had to say. Beach Wine Guy wants to know
Nick
what's
Singleton
the impact
question for Nate. Yeah.
from Stan Drayton on Nick Singleton and on Katron Allen.
Understanding defenses and Katron being fast. But that's not Stan Drayton. That's Katron being healthy. But those are the two things. Well, three things. Nick in the passing game, Nick in the open field, and Katron doing things that he couldn't do before physically because he's healthy. He's been healthy. Like, that's it.
All right. Perfect. So now let's get to our second run game question of the show. Ripping through these, we might actually get to all of them. PSU Ram laces his question with a comment: if the path to a big-time victory is boring run game, will Colton-Nicky take the grind him down W or insist on adding a wrinkle that shows his creativity? Nate, I just want to come back to you on this one. What do you think of this particular question with Andy Colton-Nicky? And I think there's some valid criticism in here of the value of trick plays, but also how do you? They also work. So I guess where do you come down on what seems to be a criticism of just run the football? Damn it.
Well, here's the thing. There was some window dressing at the 3-yard line, but Penn State ran the ball 3 times into the backs of their offensive line against Ohio State and lost the game because of it. So, both. Like, I mean, I don't think that he outthinks himself. And in fact, I think there are times where that creativity could be more utilized.
Interesting. You think that they were coloring between the lines a little bit last year, and in year 2 there might be some more adventurous things?
Yeah, I think they're going to do some weird stuff this year. But I thought they did weird stuff last year. And then, but no, I guess I'm a little fixated on the sequence. I mean, you can't do what happened in that Ohio State game in the red zone, and particularly at the goal line. That can't happen. That cannot happen if Penn State wants to be the team that it thinks it can be, and everybody knows that. They know that, right? So what? I don't call plays. I don't evaluate hips. It's not what I do. But point being, figure it out. They got to figure it out, and it has to be better executed in those moments against those teams. That's a fair criticism.
I would like to add in, I guess, some context. You mind if I take this one for a second,
Yep.
Fitz?
No, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one.
So here's the thing. There are certain plays, and this mostly deals with the 2 quarterback package last year, where you had Drew Aller as basically, what do I do with him on this play? Because if you don't incorporate him in some form or fashion, he then becomes a dead object on the field that the defense doesn't have to respect. Because that's the problem with the Wildcat. That just flat out, that's why the Wildcat was a thing for a while and then and didn't really work, because you kept the quarterback on the field at all times. The problem with some of those plays that I had last year, again, in the playoffs, I called them the shiny object plays. They're deception. They're distraction. They're incredibly hard play action fakes where you're trying to draw all the attention this way. And then over here is Tyler Warren. Except Tyler Warren is the one target on the field at all times. Everyone's going to know where he is. No one's going to forget where Tyler Warren is. So you have a one-read play. If they don't have severe ADHD, meaning the defense, that play has... Maybe it has a safety valve somewhere, or it has another option technically, but the spirit of the play was everyone, like 5 men this side, play action this way, and then sneak the tight end out this way. And it worked initially. Like we saw it work early in the year, and that trick wore off. And then when you incorporate that, what are we doing with Drew Aller on these deep double passes and things like that? You put yourself in a situation where last year, I think you do that with the players you have. I don't think that's coming back this year. Aller's going to be more of a threat in the run game, and there's going to be more of a balance in those situations of multiple options, multiplicity to create explosive plays, which is the point here. So PSU Rams' point of grinding it out. Andy Kotelnicki doesn't want to grind it out. He wants to rip off 60-yard touchdowns. He wants to open up a wide alley for a runner, and I honestly don't think he cares, a runner to get a big chunk play, because the number one thing, explosive plays and turnovers. The reason he was brought to Penn State was to get explosive plays. That's what all that option chicanery is about. That's what all that deception and motion, and it's to pull defenders out of the box and put worse run defenders right on the train tracks. And if you say get rid of that, you are allowing the defense to then fortify their advantage of numbers and bodies in the box. And then, yeah, you have football from 40 years ago where everyone gets CTE and you get 3 yards every play, and I fall asleep in the third quarter because nothing has happened. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that game. Nobody wants to watch that game. I don't want to watch that game. So yes, Andy Kotelnicki, there's some unorthodox stuff, but it's there for a reason, and it produced those results last year to get those explosive plays. To bring it all home to the Stan Drayton question, if you've got running backs now that understand on the same level as offensive linemen where the threats are coming from, they can now rip off even bigger, longer runs. And the run game doesn't have to be boring. That's one of the things I was most excited about with Andy Kotelnicki is the run game is a stimulating conversation now. It's interesting. It's not, hey, let's run duo and just knock some heads together, and there's no real analysis there, at least for me. And so... I'll get off my soapbox now. Fitz, did you want to finish up on that one, or I don't know?
Feel better?
I'm
better,
tired.
buddy?
I might need to sit down.
I'm good.
Yes, I feel better.
I'm glad I gave you the floor, and that was that was pretty good. It's like I said, there's going to be one quarterback that's playing for Penn State. Like that's the difference to me, and it's about selectivity. It's about timing more so than just what the play is designed to do. So I think it's about striking at the right time. They've done it at the right time at times. They've also not. So we will see how those things work out.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you have such high hopes for this running game, and you're thinking, okay, is the running game going to get us a 35-0 lead before you like work on anything else? And it's not going to. Like that's not going to be how that works. But it's just fascinating to see how this sort of has developed, because Penn State's got a really good offensive line. They've got great backs, and they have the ability to get that done. And it all comes back to the entire offensive conversation is how much, like, you're not asking your wideouts to be your best position group, but you're asking your wideouts to bridge that gap and be much better than they were last year. So I think that all comes back to that. So I can't explain it better than you just did. But it was fun to watch. I will say that.
Final thoughts.
Wildcat's still happening.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't love that part,
look
but it is.
And I was just thinking about that. So I'm sorry, but the Saquon Michigan direct snap, like, is it Wildcat? Yes, but it's also there's a quarterback standing right beside him, so that play can go anywhere. You got one running back taking a snap. We just watched Gabe Jenkins highlights yesterday, the new commit for Penn State, taking Wildcat snaps, following not only his offensive line, but 3 blockers in front of him in sort of like a Mighty Ducks flying V type thing. Like it was a single wing essentially where you were running behind 10 blockers. So like, that's not really what you can do at the college level. But there's still a window for them to do something, especially with the quarterback being in the general vicinity rather than Zach Mills lined up outside.
Yeah. And so at the college level, Wild is more viable. There are things you can do as of the field and, the hash marks and just generally the disparity in competition that, if you've got Katron Allen, Nick Singleton in the backfield and they're running the options on an option play, you have a better chance of a positive play than in the NFL where it's rules-based and everyone runs a 4-5 or better. So, there are some caveats to that of the college level. As much as I don't love the Wildcat, it is, a viable thing that then they're going to do a bunch of stuff. So anyway.
So Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams, and Xfinity are going to find you after this show. So, yeah.
And I will hide. Yeah, I will absolutely hiding in my basement to avoid that. This is a fun show. Thank you guys for another good one. And we're definitely not done today. So much stuff coming up today. I've got to turn this battery off really fast because we've got press conferences. We've got practice. We've got James Franklin's comments all coming up today. So don't go anywhere. I mean, go do your job and live your life, but make sure you keep an eye on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel and bluewhiteillustrated.com. Tons of stuff coming up today from Penn State football. We have 259 people watching at 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Unbelievable. Football's here. 56 people like the video. So I know I should have said this earlier in the video. It'll get buried by the end of the show. Please like the video on your way out. Super helpful because then YouTube a couple hours later will start putting this in front of other people and be like, hey, this was a fun show. People had a good time. We got into arguments all over the place about a bunch of different things, but everyone had a good time. At the end of the day, we stayed friends. And we're going to do it all again tomorrow. Practice recap, all that coming up. And hopefully my internet doesn't suck tomorrow morning, although no promises there. It's not within my control. I've yelled at Xfinity on the internet publicly twice now. All right, see you later.